Hey, this is the Public Art Advisory Committee, Monday, March 17th at 5:15 p.m. This is a hybrid meeting. The public may join us at Brisbane Annex City Hall, Annex Conference Room, 25 Park Place, or via Zoom. We have no sections for attendance. Roll call. Chair Glassman. Here. Vice Chair Greenlee. Here. Member Davis. Here. Councilmember O'Connell. Here. Parking and Recreation Commissioner Sewell. Here. Committee Member Salmon is just in the other room, and Committee Member Kelstead is not here yet, but she's coming.
Okay, so can I have a motion to approve our agenda?
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Aye. Sorry.
Okay, and a motion to approve our minutes from the February 21st meeting.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so our discussion items. So we have our representatives from the Public Works Department to talk to us about our prospective opportunities for art integration on future stairway.
So this is a continuation from the conversation at our last meeting. Deputy Director of Public Works Karen Kinzer came and spoke about 3 projects that were in various stages of funding and design. The first being Tulare to Santa Clara, but that we understand that there is money to build and
it's in design.
Okay. And so I think what might be helpful for the committee is to understand the timing around that project specifically, because that's an opportunity. And then the other 2, Santa Clara to Alvarado and San Francisco to Old Town Bay Shore, are 2 other identified projects but haven't been funded. That's correct. So.
Yeah, so the Tulare to Santa Clara, I was looking at your list of selection and we can work with that. If it says you take 7.5 months to get an artist on board. So if we can have the artist on board by November, that will still let us put the project out the next spring and have it built during that summer, and we'll be able to meet our funding guidelines. So that works out perfectly.
So I have a question. When we say that something's in design by Public Works, before Public Art steps in with their funding and their co-payments and stuff, it needs to go through design to see what the actual schematics need to be and what the cost proposals would be, so that we know what the add-ons for Public Art is. Is that correct?
It is, but we could do it in an iterative process. I think stairs, are relatively straightforward, right? I mean, we've got a certain topography we're gonna have to match. So you're gonna have some steel stairs, you're gonna have some concrete stairs, we have to have hand railings, we have to have lighting. So we generally get to that point. And then, if we had artists in the queue earlier on, I think we could work with them, and maybe we can do that as we get to some later projects. That might be kind of fun. Because I think the idea I've been toying with, and we didn't really do it. Well, I know we didn't do it at all on Alvarado, San Benito, but for the Tulare Santa Clara one, what I've been talking with staff about, what I'd like to do is where we do have those change in vertical grades, so we end up with a landing. I mean, if we've got a 12-foot wide easement, why don't we just make the landing 12-foot wide instead of it being 5x5, make it 5x12 and give us some more horizontal space. And that way it gives the artist something else. Something else to play with. They can put something vertical, they can put something 3-dimensional, they can put something on a surface that's not intended to be walked on.
So that would be where Public Works wouldn't necessarily be looking at that wider space, which would increase costs, blah, blah, blah.
It's so de minimis or something like that. I would do it.
I just trying to figure out what the process is here. And so, having an artist on board that wants to do something vertical or benching or whatever it is would be helpful in that respect from the beginning, before it even gets through design.
Absolutely. Because there are certain boundaries that we can play with. And when I say boundary, obviously, if you're putting in a set of stairs, you're going to build the stairs to the California Building Code. Right? If you're building within right of way that you own, you're restrained by the right of way you own. And sometimes
by the people that are built into it.
The people that are built into it, the people that have trees adjacent to it, the utilities that are existing underneath it. So there are things that we have to play with from the civil engineering side, but there's always room to accommodate some things.
I also think it's important to bear in mind that since this is still a new process, that it may look like, you know, we may do it one way for one project and then decide that something else would work better. Like, you know, we had a really short timeline for the San Benito stairs, so it was, you know, that was already in process when we came in with it being an opportunity for art. So it looked one way. And then for this project, since we're coming in earlier and we have a longer lead up time to involve the artist in it, is probably going to look a little bit differently than it did for the San Benito. And then we may look at this process and go, okay, it's not going to look exactly that same for the other two stairway projects.
Oh, no, I'm
And
sure.
yeah,
it's
yeah,
everything
so
will
I
be
don't know if
different.
there's like, if we're gonna ever get to you know, like a cookie cutter.
I just, no,
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
didn't know if we had to have the full design and cost from Public Works
Right.
before we could add our money in, so we kept the pot separate and we were very clean on that. I just wasn't sure how that worked. And if they said standard lighting is, you know, $5,000.
We're still kind of
Expansion
doing
and-
that, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, to some extent. I mean, because again, that's one of the things I didn't address. I mean, we said we're gonna have lighting, but of course, we're gonna have to go in advance. We're gonna have to run power for PG. So whatever type of lights you have, it's gonna have to be powered. We're, for the most part, we're still sticking with AC. And so, you know, you put those in there and then it's just a matter of what sort of things we want to add and take from it. You know, if we're changing railings for one reason or another. And bearing in mind, you know, of course, obviously, we're trying to strike a happy balance, right? I mean, we're trying to have room for artistic
Functional art.
expression, but we also don't want to do something that violates the building code. So when somebody falls and gets hurt because we put art there and then we get sued, that we obviously don't want. That's not a good way to enjoy art by being harmed.
I just don't, like, my question is like, how do we embark on this process from like an artist's perspective, not having, you know,
Schematic.
yeah, because, you know, having a large landing,
Mhm.
you're gonna get, there's opportunities there that might not be there otherwise. And so if I was an artist and I was applying, it would seem like, oh, I don't know, like, is this project really gonna happen? Is it like, this is a waste of my time to apply for this? Cause like, it doesn't, there is no like design, there's nothing really like I'm responding to. I'm just like, there's gonna be stairs of some kind in this area. You know?
Is there a way to like not have the full schematics approved and all that, but that you have a general idea of like, we're probably gonna have like 10 stairs this wide and then potentially a 12 foot, like, would you be able to sketch out something that we would be able to put together in an RFP or an RFQ?
Yeah, I do.
Because I think they do.
We can give a sketch that would give people a flavor. And we're doing sense. Yeah, I don't find that difficult.
I just personally would like variety. I don't wanna always come back to the same solutions. I mean, I'd like to see like all different kinds of solutions to the spaces, and each space is gonna be different, you know?
Yeah, they're very different. I mean, our alleys are very, very different. Alvarado to San Benito is very different than a much wider and more open Telaria Santa Clara. is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think it also is a challenge as an artist to apply for something that like we would probably need more like a timeline to, you know, because they may have other projects that are coming up later in the year.
Well, wouldn't-
Would you have like an understanding, even if you might not have like when?
Yeah, we
you know,
can put together timelines. Sure. I mean, that's not.
It's
I
hard to
mean,
do it.
we're doing that anyway. You know, we put together our desires, so there's no reason we can't put it out there. We need everybody to recognize that things shift a little bit.
Well, this is saying, you're saying that it should be. You'd want to get the process, the artist on board by November
Yes.
for a spring cut and a summer finish.
Right. For spring release of the project, right.
Okay.
So that way that gives us, so if we're done, we're all
I missed something.
happy and talking with here's kind of what we think a 90% design is right now, and the artists come on board, then we make adjustments across the holiday seasons, and then we can put out to bid.
Cool. That works.
I love that you said fun. And that you're looking at the designs with an artist in mind, opportunities that you wouldn't normally do. I think that's really great, and maybe you can call those out. And then we're gonna go through this project, and there's gonna be heartburn, I'm sure, on your end with, you know, by the end of it, hopefully not, but we're going to circle back after we build this new stair and figure out how we could do it better on the next round.
We have our.
Yeah. Really experienced, I think the last one was just, was a learning curve. And so
Yeah.
as we're trying to integrate it, it's always, there is inevitably going to be friction when you put two processes together that have never worked together.
Just like art.
There are points of contact. You're like, what the hell just happened there? Like, why was it like that? And of course we try and make it work better, but that's fine. That's just life.
That's very good.
That's the direction we're heading.
I love that you said this is fun.
Yeah, thanks.
I also don't think, I mean, as an artist who has applied for, for projects, for grants and projects, that to a certain extent, it doesn't need to be a tight, absolute, this is hard and fast. And it's like, especially when you're dealing with a municipality,
Yeah.
there's a certain, I mean, it's a little bit better than working with a nonprofit or a community group that where the funding may or may not be there when you come right down to it.
Yeah.
So I would think that the general timeline that with the caveat that that timeline is subject to change because the construction.
And you know what, I mean, honestly, Dan, that's probably one of the more concerning friction points to me is that just us all being very sensitive that if you try and design in a piece of art that is, I'm going to use the word a functional and a necessary part of the stairwell, the artist not delivering that on time creates the risk of the city being subject to extensive change orders and time delays. So I hate to use the words that, things are add-on or clad into it, but those sorts of things let me get a stairway built and get a general contractor that doesn't care about art out of the way so that we can get the art in there. I wouldn't want to say, well, we can't, we're going to have these rails, but the contractor's not responsible for them, but he has to put them in. And then you've got to, hope the artist gets there on time. Things that have worked out really well in the past would be like the artist who hung the crystal at the new library. That didn't impact the construction of the library in any way, shape, or form. So it was perfect when they came in at the end, and that worked out. That was wonderful.
Yeah.
And they could be ready 6 months before, 6 months after.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't have affected the final your end.
Exactly. And there's just so much creative, artful design you can do with a stairway anyway. Right? I mean, it'd be different if you're a house and you were trying to design something nice and circular so you could get from the pool room to the bar, right? Just as an example, but maybe not so much in a public stairway. You can't do that. You can see where my mind goes.
Well, we wanted to go to Carl.
Yeah, and the areas of the stairways are going, depending on the size, are just gonna lend themselves easier to, like art in additional ways rather than always being so focused on the structure of the stairs. Although, yeah.
Yeah, and there's no reason, even places like, I don't know what sort of instructions you give your artists, but there's no reason where just because, say we're building a 5-foot wide stairway and a 12-foot easement, even if I don't put a landing, there's no reason that real estate next to it can't be utilized for something.
So it's like a little park.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's room, if an artist says, well, hey, here, if we don't have utilities underneath and adjacent to the stairs, can we put in, we use these big circular kind of cardboard things that we call sonotubes, and you put them down into the ground a couple of feet, you pour concrete into them. So now you get a flat brown concrete surface to work on. You can do that. That can be added into a project. That's not hard.
It's cheaper to do it when you're pouring concrete than to do it.
Exactly. Guys, are you there doing the stairs? Can you put that in? Sure. We throw a couple of those. How hard is that?
But I think, when we went out for the RFP for the San Benito stairway, we did 2 options. There was like the add-on at the end, and then there was integrated with the construction. And I think that seemed to work pretty well. I don't know how it's, how that's working kind of in implementation.
We're just getting ready to award that contract, so.
Right,
Yeah,
so I
that
mean,
was starting. We'll see.
Yeah.
We will know shortly into your RFP process.
Yeah.
Next one, how it's going.
but I would think that's probably what we're gonna do again with these.
Is there anything in the artist contract that talks about overages and on-time deliveries?
Mhm.
Okay, great.
We are tight. Well, thank God. You know, we just have to be. I mean, I worry about it more from my perspective. So much of when we do these things, we do them with grant money. And so I do not want to run afoul of losing grant money because that free money is really, really good money. And I don't want to.
It's the best money.
It's like a free cold beer. I mean, it's a really, really good thing. It's your favorite kind.
So did we, when you guys went out to the last RFP, did you guys have any second place people that were like so right there in being awarded the contract that we would want to invite them back when we do the RFP?
There were 15 or so proposals received that you guys reviewed. You had a handful of artists in that group that you thought could potentially be involved back to projects.
I just wondering, I wondered if there was a pool that had already thought about
Oh, there's a.
our,
Yeah, there
our
is.
staircase and
Good
our.
point. You put it back in the.
Well, and those artists that we didn't award contracts to, I did reach out and say, hey, we anticipate future projects. Please let us know if you're interested in being informed about
And
future
don't you
projects. And a lot of them did.
Word would get out and we'd even get more.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
That's interesting,
Yeah,
so
we're
we're
posted.
upstairs now.
Well, it just helps in the process if you have someone who's already maybe thought about it and thought about, well, maybe we didn't get selected for this reason and maybe we can do something else. So I just didn't know
Yeah, absolutely.
how big your process was or how robust the group was.
It was fun.
Oh, it's great.
Great work.
Yeah.
There's a huge pool of artists that are just waiting for public.
Is that my phone? I don't think so.
Yeah.
Oh, we're ready. Oh, you thought I was really late.
Oh, no, we've been going.
Oh, sorry, I was.
You were.
We're partying on.
I was in the other room stapling. Did you hear me?
Oh.
Well, if it is, it's just
Sorry.
turn it off. That only it's me.
So fine. Yeah, I want. Is there any more questions about the Tulare to Santa Clara? And then just so that the whole committee understands the other two and what the process / timeline is for those, when the committee would be informed if they were gonna move forward and get funded? Do you have any sense of that? No.
Sadly, I do not.
Okay,
I wish I did.
okay. But if they do, you would let them know and.
Sure. Yeah. They both run stuff.
And when you start looking at a project or thinking there might be funding for something, how long out before you get to design? What's your time frame normally? I mean, on a regular, not rushed,
Boy, I don't even know that I could fairly.
a
answer
year?
that. There are some projects that I've had in the hopper for 10 years before we get money for them.
Oh, no,
And
once
then-
you get money.
And then once you get money, it depends upon the source of it. If it's money that's directly from CPAG and local dollars, generally we can get the money within about 6 months. But if it's anything coming from Caltrans and particularly federal projects, I mean, it could be 2 years before we get it oftentimes because there's a lot of background that has to go in. It's programmed in further out federal years.
That's
Yeah.
6 years now.
And the ones that don't even start, because of that.
Just wondered what year.
But I think there's enough, I mean, some of them, I think we're just gonna have to adjust our thinking as well too in public works as we look at some of these projects, we're gonna have to say, okay, well, what will we do differently? Like, if we're gonna. If we ever get our utility bonding back underway, we've got to do the Lake Street pump station, so maybe. As we do that, we've got to think about, well, what's the structure gonna kind of look like? And where's it gonna be situated vis-a-vis the roadway? So is there something that we can do there that would make it interesting? I wouldn't want to repeat doing something like the restroom on the lower BS field. That's just a big blank wall. Let's do something.
That shows you that.
Yeah, let's make it look like something. Anything better than just a blank wall.
Exactly.
Yeah. But we didn't have art funds at the time.
Well,
Here we are.
and once you train yourself to start looking for those opportunities, then they present themselves,
Yeah.
Training.
What I love is being on Park and Rec, that our parks are always needing upgrading and, you know, maintenance and whatever, and parks are great places for people to gather and have art integrated into them, so I'm looking forward to the park and rec, to the park facilities, having more art in them.
No, yeah, do something like what they did out of Presidio for the overpass. I mean, it's pretty amazing space.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have that much real estate to work with. That much fun. Ain't that much money. Yeah, at least sustaining part of it. If somebody wants to come in.
Okay, is there any additional discussion?
I noticed you had the word fire hydrants on here.
Okay.
Do we have a discussion on there about fire hydrants?
Not on this agenda.
Maybe it's in the minutes. Did you want to say something about that?
Only.
Yeah, it's in the minutes.
It's in the minutes, yeah.
B.
Only just that, you know, I think we've talked with Noreen, but we do need to make sure that we have closer integration with public works and fire before we go out painting fire hydrants. We've had some really unfortunate incidents by well-intentioned people where we've had some valve shafts on hydrants that are not operable. Because people have painted too much on the shaft into the
Don't
bottom.
mean to laugh, but that's a shame.
We've got hydrant
Never thought
caps
about
that are
that.
glued shut because of that.
Oh, that's.
The fire authority doesn't like having the chains that hold the caps painted because then they get rigid, and then when the guys try to pull the cap off, it's in their way.
Is there a way that they could, so that you could have it as well, things that should not be touched or painted? If there was just a list,
Yeah.
then when people go out to do these wonderful things they do, they could have, you know, don't touch the chain.
We'll try.
Maybe
That
there'd
would
be an
be
inspection we could do.
Well, we'll
of
come up
the
with a
hydrant,
photo.
You know, will be.
Yeah,
painted.
Perhaps there's I'm going out of the box here, like where the caps screw on.
Mhm.
A rubber seal that could, when somebody's getting ready to paint it, you put that quote unquote rubber band around that seal, so there's no paint that goes there, and then that seal gets removed.
I'm just gonna break in for a moment because this is actually,
Yeah.
we're moving far afield from where we are in the agenda, and the item from the last meeting was just a discussion about the fire hydrant or a fire hydrant at the entrance to the stairway, the Alvarado stairway,
Okay.
that one. So if we want to discuss future painting of the fire hydrants, I suggest that we add that into our future agendas.
Although it kind of lives under park and recreation, something you guys kind of have it.
Absolutely.
Just get your
There's
guidelines
nothing to do with
together
us
for
anyway.
public works.
Okay.
Good,
But
that-
I just
know
want
what
to keep
you
us
said.
focused on.
We don't want firemen unhappy.
No.
Well, you probably want the firemen to find your hydrant.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's okay. I knew you would appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for them?
Stairways. Otherwise, we'll set you free. Yes.
Set my people free. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you both for being here.
Thank you.
Good to be here. Thanks everyone. Cheers.
Thank you.
You're doing that good work.
So the only other item that we have on our agenda is just a clarification of stakeholder engagement during our art selection process. And this is in response to some comments that were made at our meeting last month. And I thought that some of those comments necessitated this clarification about the process and the organization of the Public Art Advisory Committee. And I'm just gonna read this statement here. So our committee was formed to advise City Council on the creation and curation of a public art collection utilizing funds collected by the city. Under our implementation guidelines, artwork will become part of the city collection either by a private entity purchasing artwork directly or by the commission of artwork by the City Council. It's the responsibility of this committee to implement, oversee, and review requests for proposals from artists and pass our recommendations on to the council for their approval. In all matters, the final decision on artwork rests with the City Council. As part of this committee's process of bringing proposed artwork before council, We review artist proposals, interview artists, discuss the project with relevant city departments and stakeholders who will be impacted by the project as well as the general public. We encourage affected stakeholders to participate in the process in order to gain their feedback. For example, residents whose property abuts the San Benito stairway were invited to attend meetings with the artists in order to voice their concerns and view the proposed artwork. We do not take the needs of Brisbane citizens or the affected stakeholders lightly. Public input was a large part of the creation of the recently implemented master plan for public art, and public input will continue to be a key component of our process. However, we recognize that the artwork we recommend impacts all citizens and visitors to the city of Brisbane, and that the final approval rests with the city council. In addition, as per the implementation guidelines that form this advisory committee, the committee is to be made up of 2 council members, 2 park and rec commissioners, and 3 community members, each of whom represent a particular segment of our community, i.e., business, arts professional, and a Brisbane resident. Each member of the committee brings valuable insight to our process. Coupled with our outreach to stakeholders and our newly implemented master plan, we'll continue to adhere to the guidelines approved by council for this committee and last updated on June 17th, 2021, and hope to aid in the creation of a vibrant public art collection that will be enjoyed by residents and visitors alike for many years to come.
Well said.
So, yeah,
That is the process.
that is the process, and 100% final approval of any artwork rests with the city council.
We are an advisory.
And we are an advisory committee. So with that, we can move on to public comment, if there is any.
Does anyone have any discussion items around that topic?
No, I think it sounded very clear and good.
I would say that our meetings are all public and anyone is invited to come and participate and join. Whether virtually or in person, so our meetings are as open as they can be.
And a fun.
And our process is as open as it can be.
Yeah, it
So,
is, it is.
Yeah, and do our share of outreach and.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do not have anybody online. There's lots. 45 minutes, I haven't received any written correspondence.
Okay. Then I guess we can adjourn.
Next meeting is